Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from the Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 2, text, what you do, 7 and 8, because 7 has no purport. Nanaranya Pashu Vrata Sankuladronya Vankritaha Chitra Druma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihankamaha Nanaranya Pashu Vrata Sankuladrunyalankritah Chitradruma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihangamaha Nanaranya Pashuvrata Sankuladrunyalankritah Chitradruma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihangamaha Nanaranya Pashuvrata Sankuladrunyalankritah Chitradruma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihangamaha Nanaranya Pashuvrata Sankuladrunyalankritah Chitradruma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihangamaha.
It's 827, right?
Yes.
Nanaranya Pasuvrata
Nanaranya Pashuvrata Sankuladrunyalankritah Chitradruma Sarojana Kalakanta Vihangamaha. Okay. Word for word synonyms. Nana, with varieties of. Aranya Pashu, jungle animals. Vrata, with a multitude. Sankula, filled. Droni, with valleys. Alankritah, very beautifully decorated. Chitra, with varieties of. Druma, trees. Sura Ujjana, in gardens maintained by the demigods. Kalakanta, sweetly chirping. Vihangamaha, birds. Translation. The valleys beneath Trikuta mountain are beautifully decorated by many varieties of jungle animals, and in the trees, which are maintained in gardens by the demigods, varieties of birds chirp with sweet voices. Repeat after me. The valleys beneath Trikuta mountain are beautifully decorated by many varieties of jungle animals, and in the trees, which are maintained in gardens by the demigods, varieties of birds chirp with sweet voices. There is no purport, so let's do the next verse. Sarit Sorovir Achadai Bulinayar Mani Valukai Devastri Majanaboda Sorabam Vanilayar Utaha. Let's go on to the synonyms. Sarit with rivers, Sarobi and lakes, Achodai filled with crystal clear water, Pulinai beaches, Mani with small gems, Valukai resembling grains of sand, Devastri of the damsels of demigods, Marjana by bathing in that water, Amoda bodily fragrance, Saraba very fragrant, Ambu with the water, Anilai and the air, Yutaha enriched, the atmosphere of Trikuta mountain. Translation. Trikuta mountain has many lakes and rivers with beaches covered by small gems resembling grains of sand. The water is as clear as crystal, and when the demigods bathe in it, their bodies lend fragrance to the water and the breeze, thus enriching the atmosphere. Repeat after me. Trikuta mountain has many lakes and rivers, with beaches covered by small gems, resembling grains of sand. The water is as clear as crystal. When the demigod damsels bathe in it, their bodies lend fragrance to the water and the breeze, thus enriching the atmosphere. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Even in the material world, there are many grades of living entities. The human beings on earth generally cover themselves with external fragrances to stop their bad bodily odors. But here we find that because of the bodily fragrance of the demigod damsels, the rivers, the lakes, the breeze, and the entire atmosphere of Trikuta mountain also becomes fragrant. Since the bodies of the damsels in the upper planetary systems are so beautiful, we can just imagine how beautifully formed are the bodies of the Vaikuntha damsels or the damsels in Vrindavan, the gopis. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshur Vimilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, short purport, but instructive. So, we see that every time Srila Prabhupada describes something in a purport that is something nice in the material world, he makes a point. He'll either say, here's what's wrong with it, and it's nice, but here's the shortcoming of it, or he'll say, this is so nice, so what to speak of the spiritual world, which is so much better. And sometimes we get ideas, cannot really fully perceive or conceive is the word of how things would be, not would be, are, because they already exist in the spiritual world. So sometimes these comparisons are helpful. So here, this is just on a heavenly planet or a higher planet, uh, and the inhabitants of the people there, um, they don't have the problems we have with the material body. Uh, their bodies are actually very nice for material enjoyment. And specifically here, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, and the verse is mentioning, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, that the, uh, the bodies of the inhabitants, the demigods there, damsels, the ladies there, but I imagine it's the same thing for the male demigods, that it is their bodies are naturally so fragrant that the rivers and the surrounding atmosphere becomes uh, enriched by them bathing in the water and the air. You know, it's like if you have a nice rose garden and air is moving over it, then you get a very nice smell there. So because of the bodily fragrance, the natural fragrance of these particular inhabitants in this particular place, um, then everything becomes very very nice. But Srila Prabhupada uses that to say, so it's so nice there, material planet, which is temporary, it's material. So what to speak of the spiritual world, which is our goal. Our goal is not to go to the heavenly planets. Well, it's not supposed to be. If we want to become Krishna conscious, then we have to put aside all these other desires. So just like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, pure devotional service is described. It says, Anyavilasita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anakulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. And this is actually the definition of pure devotional service. So pure devotional service means that we're engaged in some activity which is pleasing to Krishna. It's devotional service that is pleasing to Krishna, because we could say, I'm doing the service, but maybe it's not really pleasing to Krishna. It may just be what we feel like doing, and we're calling it devotional service. But devotional service is actually pleasing to Krishna, and it's free. That devotional service is free, or our natural tendency, which is free from two things: jnana and karma, or the desire. Karma means you don't aspire to go to the heavenly planets. You're not worshiping the demigods, for example, and wanting to be elevated to the higher planetary systems so that you can enjoy the material world, the material nature more. You're not. You don't aspire for these things. You don't aspire for, like Lord Chaitanya says in the Shikshastika prayers, I have no desire for fame, for followers, for women, for anything like that. I have no desire for these things. I only want your devotional service, Krishna, birth after birth. So this is actually pure devotional service. We're not aspiring for those material, future material arrangements and material pleasures in the future or present, and we're also not. Our mindset is not contaminated with impersonalism. That's the jnana. That's the jnana in this verse means. We're not philosophically thinking that maybe by doing this devotional service, I will come to the point where I can actually merge in the white light. And worse than wanting to merge into the white light, which is Krishna's bodily effulgence, actually. Worse than that, because the impersonalists are thinking that there's nothing beyond that. They don't know necessarily about the personal form of the Lord. So it's one thing it's bad enough to want to merge into this Brahmani effulgence, they call it. But it's worse when you actually understand here is Krishna, there is a personality, and still I want, and he has an effulgence, but I actually want to merge into his body. You can merge into his body directly. But if you actually know that he's personal, he has a body, he got a spiritual body, and still you want to merge, and that's really bad. It's bad enough to not know and want to merge into the effulgence, the Brahmani effulgence. But if you actually know that the Supreme Lord is there and he has his body, a spiritual body, and you want to merge into the body, then that's worse. It's much worse because you're aware of something higher. You're aware of the body, and you still want to merge. So. And there's not a whole lot of information in this particular purport, but I would like to mention that at least it's my hope, that devotees, many devotees, who are sure much more qualified than me, will learn and study this Srimad-bhagavatam and the other books, the Bhagavad Gita, Nectar Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the basis of the Nectar Devotion, and so many other scriptures. To study very, very carefully and be able to defeat the philosophical arguments that people will come up with, Srila Prabhupada, of course, is very, very expert at that. Anyone can bring up anything, and he already had 100 verses ready to, that he could quote to support Krishna's position. So I'm not personally very good at these things, but I'm very, very convinced that it's very, very important. I'm hoping that devotees who are physically younger than me and still have a chance to do something good, well, some will take it very seriously. Just like sometimes we mention about in India, there's 6 departments of knowledge. Actually, they're deviant knowledge, not deviant kind of knowledge. The false Kapila Dev, the logic, Nyaya, and several others. And Srila Prabhupada actually writes that no one should dare sit on the Vyasa-san if he is not able to, on the basis of Srimad-bhagavatam, he's not able to defeat these other philosophies. Or Srila Prabhupada didn't, as far as and ISKCON gurus like that, he didn't really push that too much. He said, just repeat what I say, follow my example, like that. So that's there. But he did write it in one purport in the Srimad-bhagavatam, when the sages of the Naimisharanya were um, there was a discussion between them and Sutta Goswami, who they had selected. And in one of those purports, Srila Prabhupada says that one should not uh, dare sit on the Vyasasana. He should not take the position like an acharya if he's not able to show how the Srimad Bhagavatam, based on Srimad Bhagavatam, is not able to defeat these other ideas. Just like Kapila Dev, the false Kapila Dev. So he taught the Sankhya philosophy. He called it Sankhya, and it was a very detailed analytical study of the material world, gross matter, subtle matter, gross material, subtle material, so like that. He explained a lot of that, but he never mentioned the soul or the super soul. He was basically teaching atheism. So, but if someone brings up that, saying, "Oh, I studied Sankhya philosophy, and here is the truth," then we should be able to, on the basis of Srimad Bhagavatam, basis of Bhagavad Gita, basis of other scriptures that we do have access to, we should be able to point out the fault in it. Okay, all this is good, but without the soul and the super soul, it's useless. Same thing with someone proposing we should follow the Varnashram system, but their idea is not including there's Daivi Varnashram, and then there's just Varnashram. But the whole goal of Varnashram is to become Krishna conscious. It's a gradual process, but it's to become Krishna conscious. That is the goal, and that is the purpose of it. Like we were reading in one purport, you want to so that people could become free from different material attachments. Because they become free from different material attachments, they were to be engaged in certain material things, and then that's referring to the Varnashram system. We all have our nature, Brahmanic, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Everyone has their nature. So the idea is you act according to your nature, but you put Krishna in the center of it, and then that way you advance. Anyway, we as members of ISKCON, we have a very great, Srila Prabhupada left a great legacy, and we have to continue that by in these ways. We should also become very expert and understand what is Lord Chaitanya's what are actually Lord Chaitanya's teachings, because there's a lot. We could say, okay, Achintya Veda Tattva, that's there, but there's he gave many days of instructions to Sanatana Goswami and many days of instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami, and then asked them to expand on this, which they did. There's so many books they wrote. So we should become very familiar with the details of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy that he gave. There's a book, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a book called Chaitanya Shikshamrita, the nectar of the instructions of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, Srila Prabhupada gave us the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, like that, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we should try our best to become qualified and learned in what are the actual teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and we should be able to point out, based on Scripture, when someone is, even in the name of following Lord Chaitanya, that they are deviating. Like the like the what do you call it? Like the Gauranga Nagaris. It's one of the deviant sects that came up, Asampradayas they called, that came up after Lord Chaitanya. Some of these things, some of these actually started while he was present. Lord Chaitanya was present still, but they claim to be followers of Lord Chaitanya. So Gauranga Nagaris. Gauranga Nagari means uh, Nagari. Um, um, trying to remember Nagaris. Actually, I forget which one is which now. There's one of these sect groups. They consider um, they say yes, it's fact. Krishna, the Lord Chaitanya is God. We say the same thing, but they say that Lord Chaitanya is God, and his mood was the same as Krishna's mood. Not different from Krishna, but they say his mood is the same. But that is not a fact. Lord Chaitanya came and he was God, yes, that's a fact. But he came to teach, to show the example of being a devotee, and he taught how to do devotional service. He certainly didn't come in the mood of Krishna. Krishna is the, how do you say, transcendental playboy. And he is very much, he was very, had his loving affairs with so many gopis who were, um, that were married, for the most part, married to somebody else. But of course, we understand that Krishna could do that he's because who he actually is, and as far as they're concerned, and actually many places, even though the gopis externally are married to other individuals, um, in many places they are actually referred to as being the wives of Krishna because of their mood, their actual real eternal relationship with him. The in a book, when Srila Jiva Goswami's books, it's called Go, Gopal Champa, I believe. It's a large book. It's about 2 volumes like this. And there's a lot of things about Krishna's pastimes that are there. He goes very much into the rasa side of it. Different devotees presented sometimes the same pastimes, but with little differences. And, concentrating on, like Kavi Karnapur, he wrote a book. Which name I forget at the moment, but it's also Krishna's pastimes. A lot of the same pastimes we read in Krishna book, but his Jai Shishi Gurditai, Shishi Radha Vijvihara Jagannath, Balaram, Lady Subhadru, and Shrigane Purad Maharaj Ki Jai. So Kavi Karnapur, he wrote so many things, but he was famous for being poetic, and his book and what he wrote was all very poetic, the reading is very nice. Srila Jiva Goswami, he was a scholar, he was known as being a scholar. So he also wrote many books, and this was one of them. And so in his book, the gopis and the relationship between the gopis is described in Krishna, is described. So, and it's described that the inhabitants of Vrindavan, because everyone loves Krishna, and all their girls, they always felt there's no one qualified to be the husband of my daughter, so many daughters, except for Krishna. So they were, and the girls were already, since they were 5 years old, they already have their loving thoughts about Krishna, even though they had never seen him at that point. They heard about him, and they hear about him, and they're already giving these, you know, conjugal relation love, which is not poured out too much, but it's written in that book. And then, and as they grew up, and eventually saw Krishna, then it became more and more. And actually all the inhabitants at that point, they were thinking, there's no one. They weren't even thinking about trying to marry their daughters off to anyone else. They were just thinking for Krishna. But of course, that would, of course, throw off the whole mood of the conjugal, the parakiya rasa. Means the Krishna has a special mood, which is like the highest mood in spiritual life. It's the lowest thing in in the material life, with some girl who was married to someone else is associating intimately with some male. But in spiritual life, it's very in Krishna's life, it was actually the highest. So, in any case, the gopis were always thinking about Krishna, and Krishna was always thinking about the gopis. But Garga Muni, the priest of the Nanda Maharaj, the Vrindavan inhabitants there, he also understood, but he understood higher level. He understood what was actually Krishna was, real mood. The parakiya rasa would be spoiled if he actually married all these girls. So he, on the excuse of that would become very well known, and Kamsa, who was already looking how to kill Krishna, it'd be very hard to hide Krishna from Kamsa. So he made an excuse like that. So he strongly advised all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, no, you've got to marry your daughters off to others. They cannot marry Krishna for that reason. For Krishna's protection, you have to have them marry others. But Yogamaya, who is Purnamasi in Krishna Lila, she made some kind of arrangement, which I don't fully understand, but somehow or other but somehow or other that the gopis, although they were officially openly married to different young men, but they never actually had intimate relationships with them somehow. I can't explain it, but it's described like that. And their thoughts were always only with Krishna. Externally, they were in a family situation, but externally they were. But their real thought was about Krishna. So anyway, these are pretty elevated topics. I don't pretend that I can understand, but I would like that we devotees do not only study Srila Prabhupada's books, which we must study, of course, but Srila Prabhupada also referred to these other books, and he did authorize it to be translated to English, and I'm sure other languages will follow. And we should become very knowledgeable of these different subjects, so that when others come up with their misconceptions, we can explain what is what on the basis of actual scripture. Because anyone can come up with some idea and speculate about it and like that. But if we in ISKCON should become very very expert. You know, if we have the intelligence, the intellectual ability to study and learn these things, we should become very expert in defeating arguments or creating arguments to defeat these false conceptions. And there's a lot of false conceptions uh, out there because people just don't know. So that's important. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. Any crazy idea that may come up, and if it was presented to Srila Prabhupada, he would chop. He would stop everything. He'd fix the problem. Um, Srila Prabhupada didn't actually so much go out and openly, you know, preaching about the intimate relationships with Krishna and the gopis and like that. He concentrated on other aspects. And the reason he didn't do that so much, you know, we should be knowledgeable about these things, but he didn't personally go out and start, you know, intimately talk about the intimate affairs of Radha and Krishna, because we're not really qualified to hear it like that. We get it through Krishna book, and which is many intimate things are being written there, but Srila Prabhupada also gives a lot of explanation along with it. You know, the Krishna book is not just a translation of the 10th canto. It's like his purports are included in it, and it's all made into a story format. So we don't really go out to the people in general and just preach about all these high things, which we can't really understand anyway. But we should try to get to the point where we can understand it, and we can make arguments in favor of the actual truth. That's the point I'm trying to make here. It's not everyone can do it, but those who have the ability, I think it's a very, very important service for ISKCON and for the general society that can be how do you say by if we can properly give authoritatively give the right knowledge, then this will be very good for the rest of the society. We should be ready. We preach very simple to those who are simple, as Srila Prabhupada did, and we should become expert in all these different philosophical points, so that when you have someone who's actually qualified to speak up, they feel qualified to speak up about it. We should have our army, our special corps, our special, what do they call it, the armed forces. Our the Navy would be the Navy SEALs, I guess, who are very, you know, high position. We should have our devotees within ISKCON who can defeat these false ideas when they come up, because they spoil everything. These 13 different deviant sampradayas, as is referred to, who claim to be followers of Lord Chaitanya and have whole other ideas. That those I don't know how prominent those. Well, I know in the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur there were thousands and tens of thousands of people belonging to some of these different groups. It was just like part of the society, part of the Bengali society. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very smart, and he did a lot to put everyone in their place. But I'm sure we're further on in Kali Yuga, and these ideas are out there. Maybe they were more open and out in the open in India, but people come here and have their ideas, and if there's an opportunity to preach to them or to preach to those who are following those ideas, and on the basis of the scripture, and we can correct them, then that's very important, because anyone who's following these other paths are they're lost, basically. There's another group, I don't remember the Sanskrit names of them, but the also in the mood of being followers somehow of Lord Chaitanya, they're the women dress up, pretending that they're gopis, and somebody else dresses up, pretending he's Krishna, and they're thinking that they're they're pleasing Krishna. Those who dress up as gopis are thinking that they're pleasing Krishna just by play acting, going out and having their own rasa dance, and so they're thinking that they're pleasing Krishna with their they're doing that, and then as someone dresses up as Krishna, and he's thinking that he's pleasing, that he is interacting with the gopis on some spiritual level, just because he's playing like that. But they're not on that level. It's just play, but so the whole thing is a kind of a sahaja. Everything's taken they take it very, very cheaply. And those who follow them also take Krishna consciousness and the positions of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and so on very cheaply. So it exists, and I'm sure there's a lot. These things exist a lot, and we may or may not see it very much, but still we should be very familiar with the philosophy and what is right and what is wrong, and why it is right or why it's wrong, based on scripture, based on the previous acharyas, and we should be able to defeat these if the point comes up. These are just some points like that. 8:33. That's about all I have to say on these verses. It was just a short purport, and the next one is next several verses have no purport at all, so I don't really want to go forward like that. So maybe I'll stop here. Are there any questions or comments?
You recommend some of the books, like we read through the Prabhupada's books, maybe some of the books that, like the Sandarbhas, maybe, that are more philosophical?
They're all important. And they're all important. And Srila Prabhupada quotes from them sometimes in his own books. So yes, there's the Bhagavad Sandarbha. I feel the names of all of them. There are many. Huh? Sattva Sandarbha. Yeah, they're deep philosophical understandings, and they're available in English. I think a lot of them are translated by one of our ISKCON devotees, Bhanu Swami Maharaj. He's expert in Sanskrit, in Bengali. He just translates from Bengali, from Sanskrit, and also from Bengali, like that. And these books are available. You can go to he's got I'm sure on Amazon or somewhere, he's got all his books are listed. And a lot of them are available in Kindle format. You don't get the hard paper book. You can get it in Kindle format, which is, for me, it's easier to read. I can expand the letters. It's easier to read. But anyway, you can get them like that and study them. Same thing with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He has Srila Prabhupada specifically mentions a couple of books, Jaiva Dharma and Chaitanya Shikshamrita, are two that Srila Prabhupada specifically mentioned were very important. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta mentioned it also. That these particular books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur are very, very, very important. So these are also available. You can see Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and if you've read Nectar of Devotion all the way through, and you're reading the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then you'll see it's very, very close. I mean, there's except that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the volume I've seen, has also commentaries by Srila Jiva Goswami and I think who else? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I believe. In addition to Srila Rupa Goswami's writings. So it's two big volumes like this, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's there. There's so many books if we're into really studying, and these books do require studying. It's not you don't read them like a novel, speed reading, and you have to really study them and contemplate them, and maybe take notes, and go back and cross-reference with some other book to get a better understanding. That's actual studying, which is what I like to do sometimes, to do it. But for those who are younger or maybe smarter than me, and can grasp these things more easily, then it's good. So I'm not a perfect example in that regard, but I'm very much convinced that it should be done. So I'm hoping to some of you, including you, Jiva. You get a little bit older, you start studying these books.
I've been studying the canto.
Wow.
His favorite thing is the structure of the universe and how that ultimately Krishna is at the expanding and everything.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The structure of the universe is very important, and ultimately we understand that Krishna is behind it. It's not a big bang, no big explosion. It just happened to turn into a very nice universe. It's not that we were reading the other day. It's not that the planets out there, the scientists are thinking, well, maybe possibly there's some microbial life there, but nothing can live there. Certainly nothing can live on the sun. But they don't know. And Srila Prabhupada points that out. They don't know. They have no way of experiencing it. The only way you can know is by hearing it from the perfect source, hearing or reading it from the perfect source. And we have that perfect source. So and the real point of becoming Krishna conscious is that is the amount of faith that we have in faith in something sublime, which means high knowledge. How much faith we have is actually the test of how Krishna conscious we are. The third class devotee has no faith, or almost no faith, maybe a little faith okay, I'll chant Hare Krishna and I'll see what happens. But the faith really means faith in the scriptures. So Krishna says in the scriptures, I am Krishna, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you must surrender to me, and just many statements. If someone they just completely accept what's ever in the scripture, then it's an elevated position. It's not that everyone can do that. And if we are so fixed in that faith that we not only accept it, but we've actually acted on it, and we've become Krishna conscious, like a completely liberated pure devotee, then he has 100% faith not just faith, but realized faith, or realization, because of course he's already realized Krishna. So yes, so our thing is to just develop that strong faith in Krishna consciousness and in the scripture. And then, of course, as far as the universe goes, there's the things that are really far out, but we accept them as truth. And back in the, I think we were talking yesterday, the day before, during the first moonwalk, as they said that man went to the moon, and they were actually showing someone supposedly being on the moon at the time. And Srila Prabhupada just said right off, it can't be. It's not true. So, and the moon is actually, well, the moon, according to the Srimad-bhagavatam, is beyond the sun. It's farther away than the sun. So it's another, it's 800,000 or 1,600,000 miles beyond the sun. And the sun is basically what the scientists say, 93 million miles. So we're talking about, the moon is maybe 95 million miles away, according to the Srimad-bhagavatam. And it's also described as, I don't remember the size, but it's actually quite large. It's larger than the sun. It looks about more or less the same size, depending on where it is and how far it is away from it is at any one time. But it's actually larger than the sun, but it's much farther away than the sun, like that. But somehow the scientists can't see this, or they somehow or other are realizing it they're always experimenting. If they're actually come to the realization, hey, we just found out that the moon is actually this far away, but you can't tell anyone that. Then you gotta hide it, because how much all the books on physics and astronomy, and all this have to be rewritten. That means it turns everything back. You know, they can't bring these things out. Even if they figure it out, they can't bring it out. It'd be like a top secret. Oh, we just realized that the moon is actually far away. If we tell people that, they'll realize that we couldn't have gone to the moon, and how everyone's going to hate the country because they're spending billions and trillions of dollars on these flights going to the moon, and no one could have actually gone. You know, so the material, it's just material nature is like that. But if you want to, we want to get the truth, and we should know the truth. We should come to the point we can completely accept everything that's in the Srimad-bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and these other shastras, and we should act on it. And ultimately, the real purpose of that we become Krishna conscious, we go back to the spiritual world. And in the process of us becoming more and more and more convinced to become 100% Krishna conscious, in an attempt to do that, in our attempt to become more and more Krishna conscious, we also become more qualified to preach and help others become Krishna conscious. And the more we help others become Krishna conscious, then the more we become Krishna conscious. Because Krishna is pleased and he's reciprocating with us. Anyone else? Comment? Okay. 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 So I guess we'll end for today. It's time anyway. It's 8:45. Thank you everyone for coming. Tomorrow we will start on. We got verses 9 through 13, and probably a couple more verses before, and the next 9 through 13, and 14 to 19. There's a lot here before there's a purport. It's very a lot of descriptions here of this heavenly kingdom. Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.